March is in March.
Yeah, this one works.
Who wants them?
Oh, here, we can just set them back here if they're good to go.
Okay.
I had them sit them on the table back just a second. We just set them on this table, that way they know where they're at.
Okay.
And they're all good. Are they on?
They're on here on our side. They are not.
Okay, that's
We're gonna
perfect.
put this out.
We'll work. That's okay.
Well, I just wanted to
I don't
make
know
sure
if this is
that
gonna cut enough time.
back here.
Onward, onward.
Read it to us. Yeah, read it. Don't read it into the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will go. What?
Okay, this is what we have. It's still
Pretty long.
still pretty long.
And that's after you've cut it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But would
Two
cut
paragraph,
two
two paragraphs.
huge paragraphs.
Okay, let me see here.
It would have probably taken me minimum 30 seconds each.
No, I don't.
No. No. What? Kill people. That would. Hello? Randy! 4 and 5. Can we test them? Hello? 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 Guy got it.
Yeah, if we can get
Anchors on.
Veterans Day Assembly. My name is Naomi Martin. I am a sophomore, and I will be conducting today's assembly. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of the year 1918, World War I officially ended. More than 100 years later, we celebrate Veterans Day to honor those we lost, those who served, those who are serving, and those who will. No matter what you think about wars and how our nation deals with them, veterans are people who undeniably deserve celebration and honor from each and every one of us. On behalf of Logan High School speech and debate team, we ask that your cell phones stay put away and that you join us in showing respect to the veterans who have served our country. Will the audience please rise, remove your hats, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as Evan Coppin, a senior, sings our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let's have another round of applause for Evan. Alma Valdez Molina, a sophomore, will now deliver a speech titled The History of Veterans Day.
Good morning. My name is Alma Valdez Molina. I'm a sophomore member of the Logan High School speech and debate team, and today I will be talking about the history of Veterans Day. What is Veterans Day and what's its importance? Veterans Day, formerly known as Armistice Day, was originally set as a U.S. federal holiday to honor the end of World War I, which officially took place on November 11, 1918. In 1938, through an act of Congress, November 11th was made a federal holiday. In 1954, at the urging of the veteran service organizations, the 83rd U.S. Congress amended the Act of 1938 by striking out the word armistice and inserting the word veterans. On June 1st, 1954, November 11th became a date to honor American veterans of all wars. World War I, known at the time as the Great War, officially ended when the Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28, 1919, in the Palace of Versailles, outside the town of Versailles, France. However, fighting ceased 7 months earlier when an armistice, or a temporary cessation of hostilities between the Allied nations and Central Powers, went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. For that reason, November 11th, 1918 is genuinely regarded as the day end of the war to end all wars. Veterans Day continues to be observed on November 11th, regardless of what day of the week on which it falls. The first Veterans Day under the new law was observed with much confusion on October 25th, 1971. It was quite apparent that the commemoration of this day was a matter of historic and patriotic significance to a great number of our citizens. And so on September 20th, 1975, President Gerald R. Ford signed Public Law 94 through 97, which returned the annual observance of Veterans Day to its original date of November 11th, beginning in 1978. This action supported the desires of the overwhelming majority of state legislators, all major veteran service organizations, and the American people. The restoration of the observance of Veterans Day to November 11th not only preserves this historic significance of the date, but helps focus attention on the more important purpose of Veterans Day, a celebration to honor America's veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. How do we celebrate Veterans Day? The Veterans Day national ceremony, like most ceremonies around the nation, is held on Veterans Day itself. However, when Veterans Day falls on a weekday, many communities choose to hold Veterans Day parades or other celebrations on the weekend before or after November 11th so that more people can participate. Whether your school employs has a few veterans hired or none, celebrating Veterans Day is a unique opportunity to enhance your commitment to supporting those who wore our nation's uniform. Veterans Day is an official United States public holiday observed annually on November 11th that honors military veterans, that is, persons who served in the United States Armed Forces. It coincides with other holidays, including Armistice Day and Remembrance Day, celebrated in other countries that mark the anniversary of the end of World War I. How can we honor those who served? There are many ways to honor and celebrate the men and women in your company or community who have served in the military. Here are a few ideas. Number 1, treat them to a treat. Consider honoring and recognizing veterans at your company by hosting a lunch in their honor. Invite civilian colleagues to learn about the military experience. Show their appreciation for the veteran employees' military service and build camaraderie among the teams. Whether formal or casual, a special lunch or reception honoring your veterans shows respect and appreciation. Number 2, recognize them. Does your school or community have an internal newsletter or other forms of internal communications? Perhaps highlight the experiences of several veteran employees, showing their successful transition, emphasizing their transferable skills from military to their civilian careers, and their hobbies, families, and interests. Such an effort not only reinforces the value veterans bring to the civilian workplace, but reminds civilian colleagues that veterans are people first and employees second. Number 3, share their story. With respect and sensitivity, share the story of the veterans who work for and with you. Oftentimes, civilians are intimidated to inquire about the career choice to serve in uniform, and this is an opportunity to show what military service is like, the challenges and accomplishments of your veteran employees, and their sacrifices made to ensure our nation's liberties. Consider sharing your veteran families or loved ones' story with clients, vendors, and the broader community, if appropriate. Number 4, serve the family. When a service member commits to military service, their commitment impacts their family significantly. If the service member is married and has children, these people's lives dramatically change as they learn to live a military lifestyle alongside their spouse and parent. For parents of service members, putting on the uniform is filled with pride and fear. Honoring the families of those who serve through events, special gifts, or recognition builds positive feelings for your veteran employees. Number 5, serve the community. Every community has veteran service organizations whose focus is to provide support to military veterans and families. These VSOs focus on issues from PTSD to suicide prevention to career transition services to temporary housing to equine therapy and everything in between. There is no shortage of organizations positively impacting the post-military life of the service member. Engaging your team in volunteering to build a house for a veteran, providing on-site coaching at a workforce center, or handing out supplies at a veteran homeless shelter brings light the issues facing our veterans and can raise appreciation for their service with your civilian team members. Veterans Day is a day to honor those who served our nation. Consider the veterans currently in your life, if any, broaden your perspective to include military spouses and families, and enlist your civilian employees in showing appreciation for the freedoms and liberties we enjoy because of the men and women who have bravely worn our country's uniform. Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. Next, members of the Logan High School speech and debate team will be presenting a program of oral interpretation. Following their program, we will watch a short video honoring our veterans.
I turned back for one last look as I boarded the plane. It was a place I was sure I would never see again. Thankfully, I was wrong, but at the time, I was just happy to be living alive. I expected a rowdy flight home as liftoff, a rousing cheer catapulted us upward. GIs laughed and pinned their purple hearts to the uniforms of smiling flight attendants. After a few moments of back-clapping, the plane went silent.
A man who was completely innocent offered himself as a sacrifice for the good of others, including his enemies, and became the ransom of the world. It was the perfect act. Mahatma Gandhi. For many of the veterans who we honor today, a sacred sacrifice was paid. For some, this sacrifice was one of time. For others, a sacrifice of youthful innocence, and ultimately for far too many, an absolute sacrifice was offered. As members of the Logan High School speech and debate team, we seek to recognize and honor this selfless sacrifice. We present for you a program of oral interpretation, including a personal narrative of World War II veteran Donald Fenchel, presented by Adrian Webb, literature From Farm Boy to Soldier, written by Korean War veteran Colonel Paul E. Idle, presented by Naomi Martin, the poem The Day I Came Home from Vietnam, performed by Finn Beland, literature No One Cares, written by Afghan war veteran Chris May and presented by Evelyn Casperson, and an original work, Dear Mom, written by Logan High School alumni Caleb Martin and presented by Asher Wiebe, that reflects the perspective of future war veterans from Logan High School. Sacrifice, a program of oral interpretation.
3 months before my 17th birthday, my parents signed the paperwork for me to join the Army, allowing me to leave school early and follow in my older brother's footsteps. I was finally deployed at the age of 19 to Afghanistan as part of the Mentoring and Reconstruction Task Force.
I was a junior in high school when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. I got my draft notice almost on the day I turned 18. I was allowed to finish my last couple of months of school and graduate with my class. I graduated on a Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m., and 2 hours later, I was on the bus heading to my induction center at Camp Dodge, Des Moines, Iowa. My dad and mother took me to the bus. I was uneasy. I shook hands with my mother and kissed my dad goodbye. Little did I know, I would never see him again.
Dear Mom, so you were born in the early months in the winter of the 2000s in Logan, Utah. You were told that you were good as a kid, helpful around the house, and nice to your sister and 3 brothers. But you don't remember a whole lot about your childhood. But it was good. Time moves forward and the years go by, and you start to grow up. You make your way through elementary school well enough. Middle school is terrible, but it goes by pretty quick. And then you are in high school, 4 years before you get your diploma, become an adult, and then there is a never-ending series of possibilities for you. You have to enjoy it while it lasts, because in the grand scheme of things, your 4 years in high school are fleeting and unimportant. Your grades are fine. It's not like you have a 4.0 or anything, but you try, and it shows. Your counselor, come junior year, starts looking at colleges for you, and you decide on one. You take the ACT, and your score is actually pretty good. You still worry it won't be enough, though. You go to dances. You date. You have your first kiss. You attend your weekly church services and help your parents out around the house. Senior year comes, college apps happen, and you are accepted. Your ACT score was good enough after all. And then it's over. You graduate. You walk onto the stage and get handed your diploma. Your parents cry, and just like that, it's over. You have your whole life ahead of you. But suddenly, a spark ignites and war breaks out in the Middle East. At the age of 19, you are drafted into the military.
I received my greetings from the draft board, telling me they needed me as soon as possible. Leaving home with only the clothes on my back and going to the induction station was a huge step for a farm boy from rural Kansas. Looking back, it was the beginning of a great adventure that would never be forgotten. My mother died unexpectedly while I was in basic training, and this added emotional burden made military training even more difficult. Life went on, and all required training was completed. After several weeks at home, I took my first commercial airline flight to Seattle to catch a World War II Kaiser-built Liberty ship that would take me to the Far East. Sailing the Pacific Ocean on a small troop ship with 4,000 troops had to be one of the worst experiences of my military career, including my time with the rifle company during the war. Thousands of seasick troops confined to a small area cannot be appropriately described unless you have been there. The rough, foggy, mountainous coastline of the South Korean peninsula near Busan will stay in my memory forever. This is the land of the morning calm, but in 1950 to 1953, the mornings in this small Asian country were anything but calm. This we would see for ourselves in just a few days.
In the port towns, we saw the devastation of war for the first time. Shattered buildings and smoke-filled skies, we learned to identify the Germans' work. As we rode the small trains, we could see the sky full of planes, and we could see the anti-aircraft guns pointed skyward. It left little doubt that you were in the European theater of operations, along with being in a strange country that spoke with a Cockney accent. The battle for the liberation of Normandy, a prelude to the liberation of Europe, had a high cost of lives and devastation. This, of course, was paid with the lives of so many innocents. In the period of a week in France, while passing through a small village, I saw an older man digging a grave. We walked over, and on the ground were his wife and teenage daughter. We asked if we could help him lift the bodies. He refused us. We saw him place straw on the floor of the grave. He placed his wife down, covered her with straw, and did the same for his daughter. There were so many life and death situations. You look back and wonder how you were able to keep your stressed mind clear enough to go on. But I was only 19 and feeling immortal.
I look at those behind me, quiet faces, some tear-stained faces. After a gasp of exuberance, they had quickly drawn back into themselves. I couldn't tell if they were looking forwards or backwards. They had quietly drifted somewhere.
Dear Mom, you write, I finally get to write you a letter. I know it's been a while, but I'm okay. The worst thing here is not the searing heat or the cold nights. It's the waiting. Waiting for the wind to quit blowing and the sand to quit grinding against your skin. Waiting for a moment of privacy in a tent packed with 70 other men, in a camp packed with 700 other tents, in a base packed with 15,000 soldiers, all looking for a clean place to go to the bathroom. Waiting for the bone-rattling coughs from dust finer than powdered sugar to stop attacking the lungs. Waiting for the generals to order the battalion to move north, towards Tikrit, where others, Iraqis, are waiting for us. Anyways, I hope you are doing well, Mom.
As we approached central South Korea, we could see the physical damage caused by the war. Remains of railroad engines and cars along the tracks, deserted villages and large bridges hanging in the rivers, destroyed by one side or the other. Back then, it was hard to believe these were places where people lived, their hometowns, just like the cities and towns in Kansas. It didn't take long for them to assign me to Baker Company as a medic. This was my home, and these men were my family for the next 6 months, or until the war ended on July 27th, 1953. We were in the field all this time during the winter, spring, and summer campaigns. It was a rough life, but we were soldiers, and we were young.
A 9-month tour stretched into 10 when my battalion was snowed in. The things that occurred during those 10 months are too vivid. I remember a little boy coming up to my unit's position. We colored pictures with him and some other small children. I saw that little boy the next day, but this time, lifeless in his father's arms. Knowing one moment we could just be sitting there coloring, and the next morning the kid's dead. Going home on leave was harder than I would have thought. I was watching the news one day, and it was some trivial stuff about the price of fuel. I said to my dad, I don't get it. Why is everyone so up in arms about the price of fuel when on the other side of the world there are people literally dying and no one gives a hoot? Dad turns to me and goes, because this is their world. And it just blew my mind. When he said that, I realized that it was true, that deploying to warlike operations or coming back from war, no one cares, mate.
Sometimes people ask you what it's like. Did you get a gun? Did you kill anybody? So you like to take them on a mental journey to help them understand. First off, let's prepare your living area. Go to the vacuum, open the canister, and pour it all over you, your bed, clothing, and your personal effects. Now roll in it into your eyes, nose, ears, hair, and well, you get the picture. You know it's just perfect when you slap your chest and cough from the dust cloud you kicked up. And no, there is no escape. You just get used to it. Okay, pitch a tent in your driveway and mark off an area inside it along one wall, about 6 feet by 8, including your bed. Now pack everything you need to live for 4 months without Walmart and move in. Tear down the 3 walls of your tent seen from the street, and you have about as much privacy as you get. But it's not all bad. I've met some of the best people I've ever known in the military. Some of the strongest, bravest, kindest people I've ever known. They look out for you, and you, them.
I was promoted to second in charge of a 10-man section, stationed north of Tarankout, the middle of nowhere. Normally, I'm the driver of the rear vehicle, but I was commander of the very first. All of a sudden, my armored vehicle was struck down by a roadside bomb. The blast threw me from the car and then sucked me right back in. Cigarettes. That is the smell I remember while the Navy clearance driver was putting a C-spine collar around my neck. It came off his fingertips. I woke up and asked, "What happened?" He looked at me and said, "You're all right, mate. You've just been hit by an IED." Right then I started crying, screaming. I couldn't move my toes. I was paralyzed from the waist down. The only thing that kept me alive was my helmet.
Dear Mom, Dad, if you guys are reading this, it means I didn't make it home. I knew this was a possibility, but the fact it happened doesn't make it any easier on you. But I did my best. For them, for me, for you. I hope it's good enough.
Finally, on July 27th, 1953, a treaty was signed, and the shooting came to a halt. In a few months, I had accumulated enough points to rotate home. I had to ride a World War II victory ship back across the Pacific. It was a larger and better troop ship than the old Liberty ship that took me to Korea, but it was still one of the more terrible experiences of my life. We were not greeted by a band or a large crowd, but we didn't really care. We were home, and that was enough.
I didn't talk about the war for 40 years. I don't think my mom ever heard a combat story. I didn't discuss it through my many years of college. I didn't discuss it during the years I practiced dentistry. I always had enough going on in my life. I just didn't care to talk about it. It was after I retired from 40 years of practice that the memory bank kicked in and everything came back as though it was yesterday. Information locked inside my subconscious mind started to leak out in the form of dreams and nightmares. I went back to work part-time, but that didn't solve the problem. War is like a sentence placed on you, and you carry it all your life. It's difficult to shake. You can't shake the scent of death. It lingers and lingers. Years after you escape the carnage, it finds you in random moments and will not let you go. Once you see it, once it surrounds you, it is a constant part of your life. Like a shadow, it startles you in random moments. You cannot unsee it. Forevermore, it is a part of you.
We recrossed the international date line, regaining those hours we had lost. For me, A bonus, more life to spend with my loved ones. For others, those extra hours would extend the pain of remembrance and the frustration of readjustment. For some, this was indeed a freedom bird, but many were being carried to a new kind of prison.
The forgotten war will never be forgotten by those who served there, nor by the 54,000 families whose loved ones did not return. Korea was my war, and I would do it again if I were young and the circumstances affirmed the need to do so. I would only ask one favor of the U.S. Army: fly me across the Pacific.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. To support and defend. The Constitution of the United States. Against all enemies. Foreign and domestic. And to bear true faith. And allegiance to the same. That I will obey. The orders of. The President of the United States. And the orders of. Those officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn, when the colors are muted and the days seem to invite contemplation. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise, but most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. In memory of those who gave the last full measure of devotion, may our efforts to achieve lasting peace gain strength. Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and borne by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Next, Gabby Williams, a sophomore, will be delivering a speech titled Service, a Family Sacrifice.
Hello, my name is Gabrielle Williams, and I am a sophomore member of the Logan High School speech and debate team. Today, I want to talk to you about something that might seem distant from our everyday lives, but is still incredibly important. The impact that military service has on the individuals who serve and the families who support them. This is a topic that touches many lives in our community, and understanding it can help us appreciate the strength and sacrifices for those who choose this path. When someone decides to serve in the military, they embark on a journey that requires extraordinary dedication, courage, and selflessness. They willingly step up to defend the freedoms and liberties we hold dear, often leaving behind their homes and families. Military becomes their second family. Their fellow soldiers become their brothers and sisters in arms. But let's remember the families who anxiously await their family's return. Military families experience a unique set of emotions daily. They feel an immense sense of pride in their loved one's commitment to the country. But this pride can often be overshadowed by constant worry and fear. As they navigate uncertainties of military life, they are plagued with heart-wrenching uncertainties of military life. Uncertainties such as the separation that comes with each deployment, the haunting that looms over them as they try to prepare for the unexpected. Though their loved ones may not return home safely, that is a reality they have to face every day, It takes immense strength and resilience to be a military family. Their sacrifices and struggles should never be taken for granted. Military families face an array of intricate and multifaceted challenges that require an immense amount of resilience and determination. These families experience frequent and immense, often unforeseen moves, which can incredibly disrupt emotional taxing. With each relocation, military families must navigate a complex web of daunting adjustments, such as finding suitable schools for their children, adapting to unfamiliar neighborhoods and communities, building new support networks, and making new friends. This constant cycle of change can be overwhelming and exhausting. Military families preserve and remain resilient. Military families learn to adapt quickly to new situations, developing strong problem-solving skills, and forming strong bonds with other military families who share similar experiences. It is important to recognize and support these families that navigate these unique challenges in being in a military family. When a military family member is deployed or reassigned, their family is inevitably impacted by the upheaval and uncertainty that comes with military life. People often overlook the burden that falls onto the spouse left behind. They must manage the household, care for children, and make important decisions all on their own. This requires a level of independence, resourcefulness, and strength that is truly exceptional. The responsibility can be overwhelming, but military families consistently rise to the challenge, proving time and time again that they are capable of extraordinary feats. Despite the difficulties they face, military spouses continue to support their partners and uphold a sense of normalcy for their families, all while navigating the unique challenges that comes with military life. Military service can have a profound impact on the individual serving, especially when it comes to their mental and emotional well-being. It is not uncommon for individuals serving in the military to experience traumatic events that can leave a lasting impact on their physique and mental health. They may be exposed to harsh realities of conflict, endure grueling and training exercise, and always have the fear of injury or death. These experiences can lead to development of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, anxiety, depression, and other mental health challenges that can persist long after their service ends. The toll that military service takes on the individuals is immense and cannot be underestimated. Despite facing immense challenges, our military personnel and their families exhibit remarkable levels of resilience, unwavering strength, and unbreakable unity. They are the true heroes who selflessly give up their comfort, happiness, and even their lives for the greater good of our society. Their unwavering dedication and sacrifices ensure the freedoms we enjoy in our everyday life. They deserve our utmost respect and gratitude. From serving in war-torn regions and supporting their loved ones back home, our military personnel and their families demonstrate extraordinary courage and commitment to our nation. We owe them a debt of gratitude that can never fully be repaid. These individuals put their lives on the line to protect us and our countries. We have to recognize and honor the sacrifices they make. We can demonstrate our appreciation by providing them with necessary resources, care, and opportunities to thrive in our community. This includes advocating for increasing mental health services and emotional support for military families, as well as creating an initiative that enables them to integrate and flourish within our communities. Only by working together can we ensure that our military personnel and their loved ones receive the recognition and support they truly deserve. Remember, their service isn't a job. It's a noble calling that shapes the very fabric of our very nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby. Now, Parker Deuce, a senior, will share the poem In Flanders Fields by John McCrae, after which the Logan High School Choir will present the Armed Forces Medley. When the choir calls each branch of service, please stand if you or a family member have served in that branch.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Thank you all for joining us today to honor and celebrate our veterans. We hope that this assembly has helped you gain a greater understanding and appreciation of the extreme valor that these soldiers displayed to preserve the freedoms that we are able to enjoy. We urge you to show them the proper respect as you remember the great sacrifice that was made by these valiant men and women. You are now dismissed to return to class.
When troubles come and my heart